Alright, so this next method is a pretty unique way to get a nice hat pattern. So this tip is only going to work if you made the melody or if you have the MIDI file for the sample that you're using. So I got my sample here along with the MIDI. So basically what we're going to do here is I'm just going to drag and drop this MIDI file onto the hi-hat pattern.
What?
Hey yo guys, welcome back to Producer Dojo. So for today's video, as you guys can probably tell by the title, I'm going to be covering 5 tips and methods that you guys can use to improve your hi-hat patterns. This will be a great video if you're looking for some effects or some methods to use while making your hi-hats, or really just tips in general to improve your hi-hat game. I'll be covering tips for beginner producers and tips for producers who are a little bit more experienced. So no matter where you're at on your producer journey, there should be at least one tip in here that you'll find useful. And before we jump into the video, I just want to give my Discord server a shout out. If you guys haven't joined already, the link will be down below in the description. So if you're a producer or a musician, if you're looking for a cool place to hang out, share your music, memes, joke around, and even a place that you can get feedback on your beats, I would really recommend joining. There's a bunch of really cool people in there, really talented producers, and like I said, the link will be down below in the description. Alright, let's not waste any more time, let's just jump straight into this. So for these first couple tips, I'm going to be giving you guys some effects you guys can add to your hi-hats. And for this first one, we're going to be talking about delaying your hi-hats. This has become pretty popular recently, especially in drill beats. And a lot of times those hi-hat patterns and drill beats are made using a delay. And even if you don't make drill beats, this is a really good way to spice up your hi-hats by just messing with a couple knobs. Alright, so this idea is pretty straightforward. I'm going to lay down a pretty bare drum pattern. I'm going to leave that hi-hat pattern pretty bare, because remember, I want the delay to be doing most of the work. And as you can see here, I have a pretty simple hi-hat pattern, lots of room for the delay to do its thing. Now I'm just going to throw on the stock delay from FL Studio, and the two main knobs you're going to want to focus on here are cut and time. Time is going to affect how fast the hi-hats are going to be played back, so if you turn the time knob up, there will be a longer delay, and the cut is how many times it will repeat itself until it fades out. I wouldn't go too crazy with turning this up too much because it can get a little too cluttered, but hey, you're free to experiment with what sounds good to you. Alright, I'm going to mess with this delay a little bit until I get it sounding right. So as you can see, this is a really easy way to get some hi-hat patterns without really having to think too hard. You can really just mess with these two knobs until it sounds right to you. And like I said before, you'd use this method if you're making drill beats, or maybe if you need like a nice bouncy hi-hat pattern. But of course, if you wanted to make this a little bit more complex, maybe add some rolls or triplets, you just have to add in another hi-hat and you can do your triplets and rolls there. So for this next method, I'm going to give you guys another effect that you can use. And this tip is going to be to mess around with plugins like Shaperbox or Grossbeat. Sending your hi-hats to plugins like these is a really easy way to get some creative hi-hat patterns without really even having to think. Now, I just got this really simple 2-step hi-hat pattern here with like a couple triplets and rolls. Nothing too crazy, but I could easily spice this up if I wanted to. Let me show you. I'm going to be sending this to Shaperbox too, but you can just as easily do this with Grossbeat inside FL Studio. I'll show you guys some examples in a second. So here are some examples of some of the presets inside Shaperbox you can use for your hi-hats. Some of these would sound better as like a second hi-hat to kind of like accompany the main one, or you could easily just adjust the mix so you can kind of get like a blend between the regular hi-hats and the filtered version. And like I said before, if you don't have Shaperbox, you can just as easily do this inside Grossbeat. Alright, so this next method is a pretty unique way to get a nice hat pattern. So this tip is only going to work if you made the melody or if you have the MIDI file for the sample that you're using. So I got my sample here along with the MIDI, and this melody is part of the Scorched MIDI kit that I dropped a couple weeks ago. It's a free pack made by one of our own dojo members, Jason Breyer. Big shout out to him, and if you guys haven't picked it up already, I'll leave a link down below in the description so you guys can pick it up after you watch this video. So basically what we're going to do here is I'm just going to drag and drop this MIDI file onto the hi-hat pattern. Now, I know this is going to kind of look really weird to some of you at first, but trust me, this is going to sound really cool. So of course you don't want to leave it like this, because let's be honest, if your hi-hat patterns look like this, you are trying way too hard. And no artist is going to be able to find like a good flow with the hi-hats going everywhere like this. But the idea here is to take the general flow of the melody and incorporate that into the hi-hat pattern. So first off, I'm going to delete all these chords down here. We don't need these. Next, I think I'm probably going to drop these down an octave. Alright, see how that has a good flow and even follows the melody? That sounds fire. Now you just need to go through and add in some extra hats to fill out the gaps. Now, full disclosure, I didn't come up with this trick. I'm pretty sure I saw this method used by Bro Beats over on his channel, which is another great tutorial channel for producers, by the way. Just thought I'd show you guys my own little twist on this because I think it's a really creative method. Alright, so this next one is just a really quick tip for producers who are just starting out, so I'm not going to really spend too much time on it. And even if you are a more experienced producer, this will give you a good way to start off your hi-hat patterns before you start adding in all the rolls and triplets and stuff. Okay, so you have your drum pattern laid out, right? So a good rule of thumb that I use for my hats is to start off by placing my rolls where the kicks and claps are. I'll show you what I mean. See, something like this. And I'll make it follow the clap too. Placing your rolls on either the kick or the clap is a really good place to start off your hi-hat pattern before you add more to it. Once you have the basic idea, you can go in, you can change the roll speed, add more rolls, and then mess with the pitch and all that kind of stuff. This is a really simple but valuable tip for whenever you're stuck on how to start your hi-hat pattern. So for this last tip I'm going to show you guys for making hat patterns, I'm going to show you guys how to play your hi-hat rolls live with an arpeggiator. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to double click on the hi-hat to go over to the settings. I'm going to go over to the arpeggiator and make sure their range is set to 0 or none. And before we do all this, I'm going to go back over here to the envelope settings and make sure it's squared up like this. Just like how you do with your 808s. So now you come back here to the arpeggiator and click on the up arrow. Make sure the range is set to 0 or none like I said before. And now as you guys can see, we have our own like little repeater on the hi-hat. So now I can go through and I can play my hi-hat pattern live, or I can just place the rolls wherever I feel like sounds good. And I also forgot to mention, you can go over here to the time knob and you can adjust that to adjust how fast the hi-hats play. Really good method to just place some quick hi-hat rolls down without really having to place them manually into the like the piano roll. And yeah, that should wrap up today's video. Hope you guys found these tips useful. If you did, consider leaving a like down below, and comment down below if you have any tutorial ideas that you want me to cover in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.